Hello. So today we're working on the Rover, and this is actually a special thing we're doing. This is a redemption tour. We're going to Houston, Texas this time, and this time the Rover is going to make it there at 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour. We're going to be passing cars. No one's going to stop us. The radio's going to work, and yeah, we're going to make it over there in a reasonable amount of time. So Houston's about a 2.5 hour drive away from me. Just a quick recap. When I bought this car, everything was fine. It was running and everything, except there was an issue with the fuel pump in which it was not giving enough fuel. So instead of being able to drive 70, 80 miles on the highway, I was limping around at around 40 to 50. And don't get me started on the when I hit the mountains. It got pretty bad there. It was a 10-hour trip, and yeah, not enjoyable. The radio didn't work, and it was only the musical styling of myself, whatever I could remember, and singing in the car. Yeah, I don't recommend it. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go through every little thing that I noticed that issues has had, and just start fixing them before we go on a trip. Well, we'll start first right now with replacing the light bulbs on the side indicators, well, the side lights, and then we'll just go from there. Right, so we're gonna start off with some simple things first, such as changing a bulb. These are side lights, not actually indicators, and they use a little narrower Felstool bulb. I looked around at the AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Walmart, ABC Auto, and they don't actually have one that would fit. They have one that's the same length, but the glass is too wide, so you can't actually screw the cover down. So these actually had to be ordered from a British part specialist store. They're real cheap. They just get you on shipping, of course. So try to bundle it in with other parts you need. I think I paid only about $1.25 for bulbs, and I bought 4 of them just to have them. So I'm gonna go replace these. The other side works, but I'm gonna put a new bulb either way. This is the one that was burnt. Okay, so two screws and a new bulb later, and we got lights. Easy done. You can see the old one was completely burnt. Another thing I did was replace the antenna. So interestingly enough, this car has 2 antennas. One right here, which I think was added later. I've seen a lot of the other Rovers, and usually I see the antenna right here in the back, as well as the one on the roof. So I did replace this one. The old one was giving really bad reception. Originally I just replaced the top part of the antenna, but it was the whole assembly on the bottom. This is a standard one. I bought an AutoZone, $18, and it fits very well. I'm getting great reception on all the stations. So always good to have easy solutions there. Oh, look at that. I didn't notice, but my rear license plate, both lights are working. Oh man, very good. But yes, you see these, they're just regular lights. They're not indicators, they're just side light markers. See it there. Okay, so that takes care of the lights on the outside. Everything there seems to be working. And we're going to go over our Rover P6, get it fine-tuned, all the little small things, try to fix them before we take it on our big road trip. So first off, we have this blinking brake light. It just kind of goes on, off as you drive. And there's a couple things that could be. The most common one is going to be the sensors from our brake reservoirs. There's a cork that will go up and down with the fluid. When the fluid gets low, it activates a contact that sends a signal through these connections, which would then turn on your brake light. Usually what happens, the cork disintegrates over time. You just have to replace it and you're good to go. Now the corks on both of them, from what I saw, look to be okay. There was a lot of residue on this one. On this one I have already cleaned it out, because there was a lot of I would say, cork residue on the bottom of the reservoir. So as you can see now, it's nice and clean. We'll see if that helps. And I topped it off, of course, put it to its max level, which would be good there. So we're gonna do the same thing on this one right here. We're gonna clean it out, drain all the fluid from top, see if there's any debris in the bottom, and clean it, and then refill it, and we should be good to go. Now that's part one if why the sensor goes off. The other one can be also the brakes on the front. The brake pads have a wire that when it's worn enough, it will send a signal also to your brakes, to the brake light, telling you that it's time for your brake pads to be changed. So after we do this, I'm going to lift the car up, take off both the tires, and take a look at the calipers on both sides. Alright, so this is our reservoir. You can see the fluid looks fairly old, so it'd be good to just swap it out either way. It's very yellowy, and that means it's been water, humidity has been in there now. So it's always good to always flush the brakes every 1 year, every 2 years. And you can see right there, that's the cork piece we're talking about. And to replace the cork, it's really as simple as getting a bottle of wine and just taking the cork off it. Anyways, alright, so what we're going to do is just drain the fluid from here. And for that, I have a little catch container here. And I use one of those veterinary syringes with a piece of rubber. And I just pour it in here. And that's all. So I will go ahead and start that, and I'll see you again. So we got our lights out, and what else we need to do? We need to tighten up the alternator. So I loosened up these bolts, this one and the bottom. What was throwing me off last time was this bar had moved, and I didn't think it had. This has to adjust this bar, and that'll give me the space I need to adjust the alternator. I need to get this a little bit up further, like about midway on this bar right here. So I'll do that. Another thing I mentioned in the other video was this condenser here. It's actually a noise filter. It's for the radio. That's an old feature. You don't really see that anymore, but alternators used to cause a lot of discharge and static. So when you buy an old radio, they will sometimes come with these filters. They're just noise filters. Alright, so I have loosened these two bolts. What I'm going to do is I need to move this bar further this way towards me, and then I can adjust the alternator some more, and then we should be good to go. Right now we still have a little too much play. I notice when I'm driving that in idle settings is not charging, only when I'm driving. Alright, so let me get to that. Alright, so that looks much better. The engine's a lot quieter too. I want to say this time it's, yeah, it's much better. Good. So the alternator is tightened. We're charging a lot better now. I took the ammeter inside with a load on it. It's looking a lot better. The main thing was because now that we have the air conditioning running, we needed to, well, I didn't want to get myself stranded just because the AC is going to be consuming a lot of power. I think that's it for here. So now we're going to start lifting the car up and taking a look at the brakes. So we have our jack set up on the crossbar, and I do want to show you this. So when I bought the car, it came with these bars. It came with 4 of them, and what the 4 is for your jack stand. So you stick these in the hose right there, like so, and then you take your jack stand and there you go. So I'll do one on each side, and that's what they're for. You get 4, 1 for each side. Alright, so I have the jack stands on, and trust me, it looks even sketchier in person now that once I lower it down. I don't know. Let me show you the other side. You see this one even more sketchier. I don't know if I trust them. So I'll leave the jack underneath and they'll be my fail safe just in case. I trust the jack by itself more than those bars. Okay, so we got our first tire off, and first off I want to say kudos to Rover for their hubcap design. Don't need to take off the cover. The lug nuts are accessible. So let's take a look, see here. All that wetness in the bay right here, that's actually fluid film. So on the day that I was driving it back, since it was still winter and there was salt on the road, the first thing I actually did was went to Walmart and I bought fluid film and just sprayed the underbody and the wheel wells as a just to protect against any salt. So you see all that wet looking texture, that's what that is. It's oily. And then this right here is our vacuum unit for the controls pretty much everything in terms of the climate control. It operates the vents when you have the heater and operates it for your air conditioning. So when I first got it, none of this was working because this was disconnected. And this one, you see, is giving me some issues right now because of that rip right there. So we're gonna fix this, and I think we have plenty of, yeah. So we have plenty of holes here. We should be able just to cut it right there and just connect it to there. But I want to see what I have in my vacuum line collection. I maybe have a cover that will just go over here and then we'll just put it on, just in case. So that's good there. As you can see, no rust. This stuff like this here is the protectant, the undercoating that's falling off. That's what this is too. These are actually just the underbody undercoating that's just flaking off. You can see right here. But it's very, very good underneath here. There's your spring, and you see our shock, how it is. It's a very interesting design, but makes it extremely comfortable. It gives it a lot of travel. Our starter, you can see that there. Things look okay there. I haven't had any issues with starting the car, so I'm not going to concern myself with that. I do want to check the transmission. But we'll take that a little later. First, let's get back to what we're supposed to do, and that's our brake pads. So we have our disc brakes right here, of course. Disc brakes look a little better, like they've seen better days. I'd say they could be used for a brand new one, but it looks like we'll be fine. Our pads. Oh, there's plenty. There's plenty of pads. On this side at least. And this is our brake sensor connection. As you can see, they had done a patch here. Everything looks fine. That's ground. I'll probably just clean that up. But everything looks good. Like I said, I was told when I bought this car that the brakes had actually been serviced. And outside of that little brake line thing, which I think is the reservoirs, there's no reason for me not to believe it. The brakes have been working very well. Alright, so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to clean this ground connection right here. We'll stick at that, make sure that's okay. This is still fine here. That's what it looks like to me. It loops up, goes somewhere in top there, top of the ends, and we'll find where that is. Make sure the connection there is doing fine. I think it will be. So it's up inside. Take a look. And everything here looks good. The pads, like I said, they have plenty right there. You can see. Alright, so we'll clean the connector and check this vacuum line, and we should be good on this side. Then we'll head to the other side. Okay, so I wasn't able to find the exact connection I wanted. I wanted something similar to like this one right here, but I didn't have one in my storage, so I used a heat shrink wrap, similar to when you use for wiring, and then just use my heat gun, and it actually worked really well. As you can see, the glue from the heat shrink, yeah, I don't think it won't sew well, but it filled in the crack and it just sealed it up. So that's to take care of that, and this would work. If not, I can always just cut it where I had it. See right there? I can always just cut that part, and we should be okay there too. But we'll try this out first. Alright, so that's really it. I already wire brushed the connector. I checked where this wire go in to, and then they loop into the harness. So we'll leave that. There really is not much here left. We will go ahead and move on to the other side now. Okay, so we're on the driver's side. After seeing the passenger side and looking at the brakes and seeing that yes, they have been worked on, I just did a quick look around, and I'm not going to take the tire off on the driver's side since everything looks to be okay here. I checked the brake hoses here. They're actually new. The interesting on this one is you see where the brake sensor connects to. So on the other one, I'm guessing they had trouble putting it on, so that's why they spliced it. And on this one, it has the original connector. This may be one of the reasons why. Little issues there. I checked the brake pad thickness, and we're fine. Driver's side doesn't have a vacuum line like the passenger side does. But everything looks fine on this side, so we'll just leave it. Our shocks, the boostings actually are still fine, which is surprising. I understand with this setup here that they have, it doesn't put a lot of pressure to the shocks, so they live a lot longer. Yeah, everything looks good down here. So I'll leave the driver's side alone. I'll go ahead and clean up a little. Then we'll start heading onto the inside and see what. There was an issue with the vacuum line. I want to see if our fix worked, if that was enough. If not, we'll have to take apart some of the dashboard. Alright, so let me go clean myself up before I head back inside the car. My fix didn't work. That means it's still a vacuum issue. And it's probably a loose line somewhere here. And if it's not here, it's going to be inside the heater box area. Okay, so to get into here, first thing off, you see these things, you have to pull these off. And if you try to pull one off, they're very tight. There is a hole underneath them. So like this one, I already got it off. There's a hole underneath them. Is it better? There, you see? Now what you need to do is you need to get something into those holes. In this case, I just use a test light. Anything really that can just get in there, because on this part here there is a. Let me try it. Move it. As you can see that this right here, that's what keeps it in there. So you need to push down on this button. Once you push down, you can slide it off. So I still got this one to do. Alright, so let me take that off and we'll continue on. So for this next part, you do want to be careful with the plastic. It is a lot more sturdy than it looks, but you still just want to be careful. I took off the ashtray to make it easier to take that off. It's really simple. It just sits there, and you see this part right here. These are your tabs. You just pull on them, and you should be able to pull it out. It gives you a little bit more space. It takes some time, and you can wiggle it out. The next part right here, we have these two locks. I have a 3/4 socket. I'll just put them on and loosen them up. But there is two more bolts. You can see right there. And you may have that one too. And in the end, this is what you're greeted with. As you can see, there is a lot of wires, a lot of things just hanging out inside there. What we have here is, so this is our electric window control. There's a big switch panel right there. You can unplug that and now take this off. From there you see we have our speaker, which is also, it takes up quite a bit of space. And then this is our main air control line. This operates the temperature and does all the vacuums. You can see, so we have one line that just popped off. They are coded. They have numbers on them, or letters, like A, B, C, I think all the way up to K. And these correspond to a valve. If you have the service manual, it will tell you exactly which ones, where they go. And then this one's our blower motor, and it has different resistance variables and 2 vacuum lines that connect to it also. Alright, so the issue we have right now is, I'm pretty sure it's just that vacuum line right there. That one always been popping off. So we'll get it back to its place, and I probably will end up throwing some tape on it just to kind of keep it in place. That's it back assembled. The easiest way to do it is connect this first, because that big plug is going to be in the way, and then route these 2 in and just start tightening it up on them under this bolt, because that will keep it in place while you try to screw it in. Reassembled our dashboard, and I did a quick test to make sure all the connections are working, make sure the windows went down so the plug is fine and that the airflow was good. Turned the car on, just went through this part, making sure the dial was set, and I also went through this. But unfortunately, I won't be able to test unless I take the car for outside and drive it. So we'll wait for that for now. And hopefully maybe that was it. But if not, oh well. That means there'll be something in the heater box. So we're also going to fix this thing here. This one connector is actually busted. So we're going to swap it out and see if that works. Those 2 cables work as a warning light to tell you if your petrol reserve is on. So this thing right here is the petrol reserve function of the car. It has a little connector right there. You pull it and it'll give you about an extra 2 gallons of gas. Now the cable itself was a little bit stuck. I threw some penetrating oil on it to lubricate it and to see if it starts moving. I couldn't tell if it was working or not because the cable over there was actually busted. I had reconnected it already, but I did it through the back and I wasn't keeping I couldn't see it until now. But yeah, I think it's just busted there. So we'll just splice in a new connector and then put it back on. Right, done. Yeah, this is a very handy little thing. For the US models, it's different than the European ones. It's actually a really long cable that runs all the way underneath the car, all the way underneath to the back where the fuel pump's at. And there's a switch, and when you pull this, there's a spring that gives it resistance. Alright, so now I'm just going to push it back in and hopefully it works. Alright, so there it is. That's how it looks like in the end. Petrol reserve, or pet rest. It didn't work. The light didn't turn on the dashboard. This would be right here. That one's a glow red, telling you that you're under reserve. So I don't know if it's been activated or not. Sensor is still the cable underneath. Needs to play it around with, move it to actually engage it. But we'll leave it for now. Okay, so we topped off our radiator, checked our brake fluids, checked all fluids actually. Everything looks good. In the end, the only thing that actually did improve was the radio. Swapping out the antenna gave us a bunch of frequencies now. All my other fixes didn't seem to do much of anything. The last thing I'm going to do is reconnect this thing right here. That's only for the US models. Do you ever remember the movie Dumb and Dumber where it says, "Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?" Yeah. that operates the key alarm, telling you that the key is still in the ignition. Anytime I'm doing work on the car, since I always have the door open, I disconnect it, and then once I'm finished, I put it back on. Alright, so that's everything. I can't think of anything else I can look at before we go. I checked the tires, make sure that air pressure and the lug nuts were nice and tight. So the only thing left is finish packing and hit the road. Right, so we're on our way to Houston now. It'll be 2.5 hours, assuming no incidents. We'll be there soon. It won't take too long to get there. Everything looks good on the car. Everything is running nice. I have the radio working, which is a big help. Yeah, this should be a nice trip. Great day to go traveling. One of the last few days of our 70-80 degrees before we start hitting the summertime, the heat waves. Good thing is AC is working, so everything should be good to go. Right, so we're filled up and ready to go. We're at a town called Mount Enterprise, so we're about still 2 hours and 20 minutes away from Houston. From here on, it should be smooth sailing. There's a lot of people on the road today, it looks like, too. Okay, so let's get going. We're at our second stop of the day, and there's a new gas station called Bodega. We've been wanting to stop here. Very nice, very clean. We're just outside of Dibo, Texas. My original estimate of maybe just one fill up was maybe too optimistic. I could tell that the air conditioning is taking up a lot of the gas. So, just a quick break, got a chance to stretch, use the restroom, get a drink, and we're gonna get back on the road now. It wasn't long after I left here that I started noticing something was a little bit off with the car. There was a rest stop that came up after here, and I decided to just stop and do a quick look around. And I couldn't find anything, so I went ahead and decided just to keep on going. Right now, the car is working and driving great. Any issues I had before, they left my mind. It's going on the highway 85 miles an hour, no problem. The AC is going great. The radio is nice. I'm having a good time driving it. In fact, I started worrying a little too much that maybe I'm pushing the car a bit too hard. It won't be long until then that something happens. Well, here we are in lovely Houston. I'm on the side of the road. I think my the transmission got damaged, or at least something happened that now the car won't start. So I'm over here just waiting now. Called a tow truck. Yeah, we were so close. Yeah, we were just cruising along, air conditioning, everything was going well until now. Well, at least it's a nice day. I'll let you know what happens later. It broke down. As I was cruising along the road, I heard two loud bangs. Next thing I know, I saw that I had no more power. Luckily, there was no cars around, and I was able to put myself on the side of the road. After a quick look, I realized I wasn't going to be able to fix it. I called a family member and arranged a tow truck. The Lunar Rover couldn't make it back to Houston, and neither could this Rover. Here we are at the side of the road, waiting for a tow truck. It took a while for the tow to get there, but in the end, we were able to get it up on the truck without issues and make it to Houston. Well, I made it to Houston, not the way I wanted to, but we're here. The Rover broke down about 40 miles away from my destination. After looking out over it and on the side of the highway, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to fix it. I didn't have the parts to do it. I'm leaning towards that the problem is the ignition, and I'm thinking its the fault was in the distributor, either from the rotor, the condenser, or points, one of those two things. So I'll be going through that first and see if by replacing those things the car will start up. The loud bang that I heard, I'm pretty sure it was just a misfire, and probably caused because there was no more spark, and I was going highway speeds. So yeah, here we are in Houston. I was able to call in the family member who was able to pick me up, and the car took a ride the last 40 miles on a tow truck. So what I'll be doing here now is I'll be working on the car, trying to get it ready again so it can take me home, and hopefully maybe we'll have a trip where there's no incidents. But till then, thank you for watching.